Let me to interview your personal experience, let people know who you are and where you come from, and what is your current focus in your career, and how did you transition from your industrial design to service design?
My name is Cheney, and I currently living in Sydney, Australia. So currently I'm unemployed because I finished up with Commonwealth Bank just a few months ago. And so I took a big break. And after that, I started doing the job hunting again, which is not a very pleasant experience. I have to make my life. So at CBA, I worked on CompSec project, which is a trading platform, because during that time, we found that it's very hard for users to find new investment ideas. How did I transition from industrial design to service design or UX UI design, which is a little bit of the story. So when I did my Bachelor of Industrial Design degree at Shanghai, I did some user research about the busy offices. I found out they're very hard to find an opportunity to have a quick break during the day, and then it will influence their performance in the afternoon. That's their problem. And then I designed a smart bed system for them to solve their problems. And because this solution really helped them to have a quick break during the day and benefit them. So that's why this project was awarded as one of the top graduation projects in Shanghai, which is a very good achievement. And I'm very proud of myself. And after that, I feel I'm quite passionate about interaction design, UX UI design, because I designed a smart bed system, a smart screen, and some kind of smart functionalities like a user can choose natural sound, for example, the sound of the ocean to help them to have a relax. And after that, I feel that I should be in that part, in that field. So that's why I applied for a Master of Interaction Design program in Monash, and I started my formal study. That's the story.
Wow, that's fascinating. I can see as a really experienced designer, you already try to minimize your long story short. What do you see as the main difference between service design and your previous industrial design? And what was the biggest challenge you faced during the career transition? Can you share a particularly memorable project or work experience?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to answer them one by one, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So I could say the main difference between service design and industrial design is that service design is more like solving users' problems. Right? So we need to analyze the users' problems to understand their requirements, understand their behaviors, how they communicate or how they interact with no matter the system or platform or mobile app. For example, when they're trying to use the navigation, so they click on something and then they're going to see the next screen. And if they find the next screen is out of their expectation, that's mainly caused a problem. So that's maybe a bad example. The first one, I would say the main difference is about solving the user's problems. I didn't say that the industrial design doesn't solve the user's problems. The service design is more like user-centered. Right, so we need to focus more on the users, and so that's why I'm going to say solving the user's problem is the main difference. And the other difference is that the tools are really different. For industrial design, we used Rhino, SolidWorks, or to create some kind of the hardware. And we render the hardware, we rendered, for example, the chairs, the desks, or even like some kind of cups or mugs. And for service design or UX UI design, for now we're using Figma, which is the most popular tool at the moment. And there's also some new kind of AI tools coming up as well. And before that, I used Adobe Photoshop or Illustration to do the UX design part. And then Sketch and Adobe XD was the most popular tool after that. And then for now, Figma, definitely, because Figma really solved the designer's problem is how to collaborate with other designers, right? So it's like a cloud-based tool, right? So the designers can share the design and they can give each other feedback on the same platform. And the other designers can see the updates, especially for the design system. It's very important because when a new component comes out from the other design, and for example, I'm working on my project and the other designer is working on the other project, and we're sharing the same design system. So that means when I create a new component, the other designer can also see the updated version of the design components as well. So I'm going to say the tools, they're quite different as well. That's the second. So the third part, I'm going to say the main difference was that there are more communications and presentations for the service design because we want to benefit the users and we want to convince the stakeholders to reach an agreement with us to solve the user's problem. So there's a kind of negotiations between designers and stakeholders, right? So that's the part when I did the industrial design, I didn't kind of focus too much. I'm going to say the main difference. What's the biggest challenge you faced during career transition? The ways of design thinking is quite different. So when I say design thinking, I totally moved from the hardware to the software. I am the designer. I'm thinking something can be very useful. But for service designs, it's not only me, right? So it's about the users. So I need to think more about the users' behaviors, and I always try to think about putting on the user's shoes and try to think on their side. And for example, if they open up the platform, what are they going to see on the screen, and what they want to achieve for this kind of task? That's something I want to solve and I want to help them with. So I'm going to say the ways of thinking is the biggest challenge. That's the thing I want to mention. Can you share a particular more memorable projects or work experience? Because I am a designer with about 7 years of experience, and I worked in lots of different kinds of projects in different industries. For example, fintech, for example, legal tech, even e-commerce and e-learning, etc. So I'm gonna say the most impressive project I've done was the project in CBA. It's a very large organization. There are lots of stakeholders I need to communicate with, and there's a lot of team members I need to work closely with. This comes a lot of challenges to communicate and present my design with them because some of them, they have no design or no software product background. I need to kind of sell my project, sell my design more in details. That's quite memorable experience. And the other thing was that the projects is pushing very slow in the big organizations. So we need to think every detail and try to solve every user's problem because we had a lot of users during that time, and each of the user, they may have different requirements. It was very difficult to meet all of the requirements for all the users. That's why it's a really memorable project or work experience in CBA. Does that answer your questions?
You have very concisely, logically answered all the questions in order.
Thank you.
So I appreciate all the things that you learned and you worked with has been transferred to the conversation. What's the standard size of the team? How many user experience designers in a team? And how many stakeholders in general you need to engage with?
At CBA, when I did the ComSec project, in our team, we are having the squad set up. So in our squad is about 10 people in the squad. That's called the core team. Right? So I'm going to work closely with the researchers, with the product owner and product managers. So I try to ideate the solutions. So that's the core team. And outside of the core team, we had different levels of stakeholders. For example, the POs from the other squads and the marketing team. And also, I think they also have the personalization team, try to kind of personalize the user experience. For example, If I'm a new investor, I'm going to say welcome on and onboarding experience. If I am a certificated user, I'm going to see some kind of advanced features. That's what the personalization team they're doing. So a lot of stakeholders get involved when I did the design review or presentation, but it's like over 20 people in the team to give us the feedback. That's definitely challenging for me because my native language is definitely not English. So sometimes it's a bit hard to communicate very well, to express my design solutions or rationale behind everything, etc. That's the team structure at CBA. But in the other smaller companies, maybe less than 10 people in the core team. And of course, sometimes it's like the key stakeholders, maybe they are the CEO maybe or the COO. They also get involved in the projects, but we don't need to include them in every meeting, right? So we just did the design review with them to ask them to give us some feedback. If there's something wrong, we can iterate based on their feedback. Smaller organizations is much easier for designers to communicate with the stakeholders.
It's very profounding. I think you help a lot of people understanding what's the difference between working for a huge firm and a mini one. Meanwhile, I know a core team of 10 people and you need to collaborate with different layers of stakeholders.
Definitely.
It's a whole skill set of management of expectations.
You're right.
A day in the life. So how does your typical workday start? And what does it look like? And which part of the service design process do you find most time consuming or challenging? How often do you conduct user research or co-creation workshops? Like you say, panels or stakeholders. What are the main focuses of these activities? And what is the workload like in this industry comparing to general chats you had with friends? Do you feel the income is reasonable in Australian market?
So my typical work day, designers every day is different because we have different tasks. It's not like my partner is working in the financial industry. She's working as an insurance analyst. Her work day was so many differences in her everyday daily life. But I can tell you that the similar part for the designers, because we worked in the squad base, we're working in the agile environment, which is quite popular these days. So that's why we had the stand-up meetings. No matter if it is like morning meetings or afternoon meetings, we have the stand-up meetings. Everyone stand up. So I just stand up next to my desk to share my updates. My typical days starts with the stand-up meetings. What kind of achievement did I achieve yesterday? And what's the goal, what's the task for today? For example, that's like 9:30 or 10 a.m. in the morning. I update my calendar with different tasks. So usually I like to plan before the stand-up meeting begins. And then after the stand-up meetings, I focus on the tasks as I updated in the stand-up meetings. For example, I brainstorming by myself or I facilitate the brainstorming sessions with the stakeholders. And then I transform this kind of ideas into the design, into the Figma file. And then maybe next day, I'm going to do the design review sessions with the stakeholders, etc. So every day is different. Sometimes I just lock myself in the room to ideate by myself. And sometimes I lock everyone in the room to ideate with me to create the new ideas for the users. So it's a designer's responsibility to facilitate those kind of meetings. So that's my typical work day. And I feel that I can make a lot of impact to the users, which that's why I'm very proud of my work and also very proud of what I've done before. Which part of the service design process do you find the most time-consuming or challenging? I don't know if you heard about the Double Diamond framework for service design. So it's like to discover the opportunities and then try to diverse and then synthesize to define the user problem, the user requirements, right? And then we develop the solutions, which is the diverge again for the second diamond. And then we design the solution, and then we converge to deliver all the design files or the solutions to the development team. It's like, double diamond process. I gotta say, the most time consuming was the user research. Because, as I mentioned, the users, they have different requirements or the problems. I need to find which part they quite struggle with by maybe create a survey to let them to fill the survey, or next, maybe some more details. I can set up the user interviews with them to help me understand what's the current problems when they're using the current system. And then I can iterate based on their feedback, which is kind of time consuming because everyone's different. They can give me some feedback, very straightforward feedback. I don't like this part. I don't like the color, but that's something I'm not focusing on, right? So because I'm the UX designer, I want to solve the user's problems. And if they say, well, I don't like this color, it's more like their preference. Right? You don't like the color doesn't mean that the other person also doesn't like this color, right? So I need to differentiate the different requirements from them and try to understand what's the key problems I want to solve for them. So that's why it's most time consuming, which is you talk to them to understand their real needs. And the most challenging part for me, I'm going to say, is the stakeholder management. Because as I mentioned, stakeholders, they may have different background, and some of them, for example, they have the sales background. A good example was that when I presented the design to the sales team, and the head of sales, he doesn't want the price listed on the add-on page, which is out of my expectation because I want to build up the trust to the users. His reason was that the users, they are price sensitive, and when they see the price, they want to purchase that. But I tried to convince him that if we don't show the price, we won't get the trust from the users, right? And there's also some kind of other compliance issues. In laws, we have to show the price from the beginning to let the users understand how they're going to pay for that and what's the price for each of the product. If we don't show that, it's illegal to my understanding. So these different kind of stakeholders, they may have different point of view. It's the part for the designers try to negotiate and try to convince them to be on the same direction, which is the challenging part. How do I usually collaborate with clients or team members? I'm gonna say the most common part for this, I set up the meetings with them. For example, I set up the kickoff meetings for a new project. I gather the information from the stakeholders because for me, I'm the UX designer and I'm the expert in UX design, in product design, but not in every different industries. So that means I need to lean on the other experts from different industry to help me to understand what's the business objectives, what's the success metrics, what's the compliance, etc. Because that's some part I don't understand. So that's why I'm going to say set up the meetings with them is the most quick and also very useful way to gather information. And also facilitate the design reviews with them when I have something. For example, I have the design in Figma and I have the prototype I want to share with them and gather the feedback from them. That's called the design review. And to be honest, some of the feedback is very strict and I have to follow on, and so they're quite minor and sometimes it's like not useful feedback. I need to analyze them and try to, for example, if they say, I don't like this button and you need to change it to a more engaging way or something like that. And so this kind of feedback may be not so useful. So that means I can analyze and put it in the backlog in the future. So that's how I collaborate with them. And how do I conduct user research or co-creation workshops? As I mentioned, I like user research because when I talk with the users or when I send the surveys to them and they give me very informative feedback or informative requirements from them, which is a very good way. I'm going to say for workshops, it's like sprint based, 2 weeks as one sprint. So it's like an agile environment set up. And for one sprint, we need to have a clear goal for one sprint, and for the next sprint, we need to focus on the other tasks, or we need to iterate and improve the designs or the tasks from the previous sprint. So I can say workshops is like a sprint based. I need to have a workshop with the managers from customers or with the stakeholders. What are the main focuses of these activities? Yeah, as I mentioned, the user research is mainly about user interviews or usability testing to test the current concept or the prototype. Sometimes I need to get alignment with the stakeholders. So I gather information and ask the questions, and then they give me the clear answers, and then I took the notes. It's like one kind of workshop. The other workshop is like ideation workshop. I gather information and I have some ideas, and I encourage you also as a stakeholder to give me some other solutions, some other ideas. Because sometimes I feel that I'm just a person, I'm not a robot. I cannot think about every solution, and I need your help. So ideation workshop is another one. And then the other workshops is like the design review. When I visualize my concept and I need your feedback, I need you to give me some kind of informative suggestions. For example, like the example I used before, like, from the sales perspective, what kind of improvements I can do to more engage with the users. Right. So, for example, I can give some kind of more promotion page or promotion model to help the users to find new opportunities, etc. So that's the main focuses of these activities. And what is the workload like in this industry? Again, different companies may have different workload. For CBA, I feel the workload is quite intense, probably because I'm a new designer in the team and I need to understand more and I need to design more. That's maybe the main reason. And I know that the other designers or the old designers, they are quite free, to be honest. So I don't know if that's the regular setup in the big organizations. Because I heard from the meetings that they are asking for tasks, and I was quite busy every day. I'm gonna say the workload is usually intense. Do you feel the income is reasonable? For now, that's a tough question, to be honest. Before the pandemic, I can say the salary is really good because there are not many designers in the market, and the business need is very high. And people don't understand UX, and they need to absorb the knowledge from the designers. And that's the main reason, I think. And these days, I can see that the salary, the income is definitely reduced because the market is very competitive and there are a lot of new designers in the market. The market is quite competitive at the moment. And also because there's some kind of AI trending as well. There are lots of AI tools in the market. The business owners, they can use the AI to help them to find some solutions. And maybe I know that there are some kind of AI tools to help them even to coding, right? To code the products as well. So this is definitely a challenging time for the designers and for the engineers in the market. AI can do a lot of work these days. So that's something I can share with you.
It's good to know. So when you're talking about facilitation of workshops, English is your second language.
Yep.
But you are actually doing something talking about people's subconscious feelings and how they interact. So you can't say it's not relevant to cultural backgrounds and the norms. So how did you overcome maybe lack of confidence or worries when you are face in face?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I could say be brave. When you have questions, ask the questions. I heard from a lead designer from previously. He just encouraged me to ask more questions. That's the phrase. No question is dumb question. And if you have no questions, you're going to be stupid. That's why I'm going to say always ask questions when you are not clear on something. And the other thing I want to mention I'm not a native English speaker. So when I talk with the stakeholders, I want to communicate clearly with them, and I can set up scripts from the beginning. I need to set up the agenda with them, what we're going to achieve in this meeting. And please follow up the agenda, and please do not go to the wrong direction, because I know that a lot of people, especially for the native speaker, they like to give me some kind of the very crazy ideas. So when they have some kind of crazy conversations, and then I'm gonna drag them back and to say, please follow on our agenda. So that's the trick I'm gonna say. And the other thing I want to mention is don't be afraid with the knowledge you're gonna share with the others, because people sometimes they come from different background, and if you share something with them, they're happy to see, and they want to see the rationale behind your design. And even though your rationale may looks not so smart or maybe not so comprehensive, but that's totally fine, because you just share with them and ask them to give you some feedback. It's like a communication. I would say that design is like a cell or like a scientist. Because we don't want to only generate design for ourselves, and we want to generate design for the users and stakeholders. And it's your time to give me some feedback. It's your choice to accept it or reject it. That's totally fine. You give me some rationale behind that. If you can convince me, that's fine. I can follow on your direction, because we are on the same goal. We are on the same page. That's something like that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, from my personal experience as a second language speaker, I sometimes need to manage expectation from people. My question is, there will be unspoken rules when you're facilitating a program to achieve something.
Yes.
It's people-centric, and some people don't want to admit. They don't want to share in the public. How did you facilitate so they can speak their true feelings?
I always encourage them to add some notes on the board, because when I share the design, I use the FeedJam board. When they communicate their ideas or feedback, I don't understand what they're saying, maybe. I encourage them to kind of, put their notes on the board, which is like a record or a reference for me. So next time when I share my updates with them, then I can also share, see, that's something you put on the screen and that's your feedback. And I did reflect that in my design. And so give me some other feedback, or you're happy, or there's some kind of other iterations I need to do. That's one trick. And the others, maybe sometimes when I didn't clearly communicate my design, I can also send some follow-up emails after the meeting. I put the bullet points. What did we talk about during this meeting, and what we're going to achieve in the next meeting? So I give them clear the recap for the previous meeting, and then highlight the next steps after this meeting, so etc. They receive the emails. It's a backup for them and for me to understand what have we done, right? So that's the other trick.
Basically, even we're in different industry, we did exactly the same to back ourselves up.
Yeah, because everyone's busy, and sometimes they may lost talking or previous conversation, and then the backup can really define that with us.
Totally agree. Especially design, sometimes people change the idea. Meeting minutes helps everyone. Let's move to the next chapter. It's more like a general abstractive way about your career growth and industry trends. The first one will be, how can one grow quickly in the field of service design? What advice would you give to newcomers who want to enter this field? And what trends do you currently see shaping the future of service design in Australia?
So cool. How can one grow? I'm going to say, as I mentioned, communicate with people, right? Even talk with some stakeholders without any design background. We can learn a lot from them, from the industry knowledge part. So communicate with people and be brave to facilitate the meetings. People can see the effort, and they understand you're trying to learn, and they are happy to give you some feedback. They're happy to share their knowledge and happy to share the ideas. And this kind of facilitation is really help designer to build up the communication and also comprehensive design skills as well. Because UX designer, we are not just design on the screen. We're not just focusing on the desktop. We also need to present. We also need to communicate with people. So what advice would you give to newcomers? I can give you some suggestions in my mind from the beginning when I come into this industry. I'm going to say sharing the ideas with the others, and to see if your ideas really meet the requirements or meet the design principle. Because I know that the newcomers to the UX design kind of thinking more about the visualization, but sometimes we ignore the accessibility and the more details of the user's requirements. And so that's why I'm going to encourage newcomers to share the ideas or share the design with more people, especially with the senior designers, because they have been in the industry for a long time and they can see your problems and they can give you some informative suggestions. So that's the quickest way to learn, especially for newcomers. Even for me, because I already have 7 years of experience, I also want to share my design with the junior designers because they have fresh eyes and they can give me some feedback which I haven't thought before. So that's usually help me to grow and help newcomers to grow as well. So I'm going to say that's very important. What trends do you currently see shaping the future of service design? As I mentioned, the AI definitely is a new trend. I sometimes use the AI to help me to ideate on one user's problem, and AI can definitely give me some suggestions, some ideas. I can use them as reference because I don't want to lean on AI because sometimes they give me some very crazy ideas. We can use them as a reference and then we can iterate based on their ideas as well. So use them as inspirations. And I know there's some AI tools like I think it's called UI. They can also give the designers some inspirations about the UI part. Again, I don't only lean on the AI generated design because sometimes it doesn't meet the user requirements and get the inspiration from it. It should be good. I'm gonna say for AI, it's definitely a trending, and I encourage junior designers, newcomers use AI as well, but not like lean on them, but use them as reference.
Right, very sincere advice. There's no dumb question. People have curiosity, and when you always ask questions, you're on the right path.
Correct. So that's why I was going to say always ask questions, no matter if it's difficult question or simple question. That's fine.
Thank you for sharing. So for people who wants to transition or for fresh graduate, it's very invaluable as advice because people may not confident not only because they only lean on the visual presentation. Also, they're not confident in the language. They're not confident in the culture. You're sharing maybe it'll be momentum for some people. Thank you. Shift to some personal insights and the future outlook. Has any project or projects deeply changed your perspective on design? If you could choose any city or country to work in now, where would it be and why? And which part of your portfolio do you think resonate most with your potential employers or something? What do you find yourself most attractive in the portfolio?
So which project deeply changed my perspective on design? I also have the digital agency experience as well. So I met different kind of the stakeholders or different clients. And one project is about a global payment project. The CEO and their core team want everything. And the timeline was very strict. It's like 3 months time on design research, and they're gonna launch the new product in I think 6 or 8 months time. And if they want everything, they want every feature. It's like we can't do that. It's not achievable at all. So what I've done was that I used a Moscow approach, which we defined could have and won't have features, and we managed them in the Miro, which is a tool to collaborate with the stakeholders, and we created the timeline and defined the Moscow, and then created product strategy. We just focus on the must-have please with the stakeholders because, as I mentioned, there are too many features. So this kind of experience definitely changed my perspective on design because we can't do everything. We need to solve the user's problem for the key problems, and we want to meet the key requirements for the users instead of meet all of the requirements, right? So I don't know if you heard about MVP, which is the most viable product. So we need to, for the new projects, we need to think about the MVP and we can iterate based on the user feedback later. So that's the project which was very helpful for me to become a comprehensive designer. And if you could choose any city or country to work in, wow, I'm gonna say if I want to choose any city or country, I'm gonna say Fiji because it has very good view and I can enjoy the ocean and I can enjoy the beach time and I can relax and focus on the design. Right. And with what part of portfolio do you think resonates most with the potential employers? I'm gonna say the clear structure and the clear project strategy because I know that a lot of designers they may say, well, my visualization, my prototype, my UI design may be the most impressive, but I'm gonna say for employers, maybe they don't want to just look at your visual design, but also they want to look at how you think about the design, how you think about the projects, and what's your methodology to achieve these, to solve the user's problem, right? So that's something they want to look at. I can give some suggestions to the designers who is doing the job hunting. We need to clear structure the product strategy and clear structure the challenges, the problems we're going to solve, and what's the result, right? So user star structure, which is a very good way to structure your portfolio.
You are the first person that I've ever known using STAR strategy for not only the interview but the portfolio. But that's good.
So that can change the mind, and that it can really help you to stand out from the other designers.
You try to make your portfolio a few stories that to be
storytelling. It's not only for interviews; it's also for the portfolio as well.
Stories to be reviewed by your potential employers who are really interested in you as a person.
Totally agree.
Wow, that's next level strategy. I hope you're gonna find your dream job soon near a beach.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. To wrap up this conversation, if people want to learn more about you or your work, or just want to say hi, where can they find you?
You can find me in Little Red Book.
Thank you, Cheney, for your sincere sharing and your insight knowledge about this whole UX UI experience in Australia. And
My pleasure.
Hope you all the best.
Thank you, Cheney. Thank you. Have a good day.